Hey, everybody! Callie, Jaden. Hey, how's it going, you two? Callie, that sounds very fascinating. I have to say that does sound very fascinating. How's it go? How is that going? 1 second. I'm just getting everything set up. Okay. I don't know. I mean, Iron Man was never the face of Marvel until Iron Man became the face of Marvel. So, uh, I think there's wisdom in just letting people react, letting people decide that for themselves. Where is it? I don't have any personal opinion. DC does have one thing I'll note about DC is DC doesn't have actually as wide a breadth of characters as Marvel does. So I don't know. Remember the last time they tried this? The two biggest characters ended up being Wonder Woman and Aquaman. So it's like there's wisdom in letting people decide who they want. I think. Like I would say, just focus on making the good movies, and then uh, it'll it'll happen as it does. You know. Okay. So what's everybody working on to these days? Back to art. We tried video games here for a little bit. Everybody was super into that idea. Everybody loved it. Everybody watched it. One second. I need to get an eraser. We're not even going to do the BRB. Exciting stream. What games are you playing? What games are you playing? Getting games. The Witcher? The Witcher, Callie? The Witcher? You're cavorting with Witchers? Those monster hunters? Ugh, Callie. They all have white hair. I don't know what bit I'm doing. I'm trying to be a stereotypical person from the where it's like the Witchers. Ugh. Dangerous folks, those witches. They bring black magic into things. How are you like? Which Witcher? Witcher 1, Witcher 2, Witcher 3. What sounds? Uh, Shat? Shat? I don't know. Nice. Witcher 3, Wild Hunt? Oh, Callie, that's too wild. And too many threes. How many Witchers are there right now, Callie? Nothing much. Just hanging out. Talking about Witcher 3, which is a game I don't think you should play. Um, Yeah, it's a quiet night tonight. Yeah, that's the best way to get games is to wait for them to go on sale. They'll be well, Calais, Calais, Calais. Yeah, it is funny with games now. It's like, for me at least, when they come out, when they first come out, I never get them when they first come out anymore because I'm like, nope, I'm gonna wait a year for that because they'll get everything fixed and there'll be a bunch of DLC and it'll all be discounted, and that's when I'll play it when it's a real game, not the beta version that they released to the public and charged full price. I mean, you're doing this for fun, uh, but you find that fun. What language are you playing it in? Just drawing a girl, just to practice. And at some point, we'll move on to. We'll keep going. We'll keep. What am I saying? Drawing, and then at some point, I'll move on to drawing more original stuff. But I like. Usually, I start with opening like drawing to just get warmed up, like from reference, and then we. Sometimes I do get distracted by the warm up drawing, and that's all I end up drawing. But usually, my idea is to warm up and then move on to an original drawing. But yeah, sometimes it's just a warm up. Nice. So, Jaden, how are things going? Uh, every time you, uh, I think I'm okay at dialogue, Jaden. I think I'm okay at dialogue. Okay, Kai. Here's how. Oh well, separate them into four separate language tabs. Do that. Um, that would be my suggestion. Yeah. Or what do they call it? Threads. Uh, oh, channels. Create channels. Create channels, each separate. Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks. Nice. What did you see? Nice. Tiger. Uh, I've always, I always like, should look up golden wolves. That's nice. Oh, did you see? Did you see a Cthulhu? Callie, did you see a Cthulhu on that day? Ooh, cool. How many sharks? That's so cool. I didn't. I didn't know that. That does sound like a thing. Let's see. There's the golden wolf. Or the deer wolf. They sometimes call it. Although that's been an idea I've had for a while. Golden wolf. That'd be a fun name though uh, for a superhero. The mountain chicken. Let's see. Golden wolf. I don't know what is it. It's a painted wolf. Sorry. Painted wolf. Oh, that's not what I was thinking, but that's cool. That's cool as heck too. Look at this. This is the painted wolf. I was thinking, what is it? Deer wolf. Ah, yes, the wolf deer. Okay, there we go. The wolf deer. Look at this sucker. Look at this sucker. Isn't that cool? Look at that sucker. Callie, if sharks were small and dog, this Callie, if sharks were the size of dogs, would you have a shark as a pet? Yeah, they're really like they're it's long like deer. They're long like deers, but they're red. It's fascinating. No, they have the same teeth, Callie. They're just dog sized. I'm not playing God here. Let's see. What else? I'm just trying to think of cool animals I know. I'm gonna draw one of those deer wolves next. That's what I'm gonna do after this. Uh, um, how about mastodon? The mastodon. What if sharks could fly? That'd be intense. What if sharks could fly? Well, that would make flying a plane very dangerous. You know what you need, Jaden? You need guys out there on the wings, uh, or you need like small planes following the big plane so they can fight off the sharks. Uh, I mean, uh, Jaden, you know we're not. You know that Finn went back in time and made sure that the Sharknadoes never happened. There's never been a Sharknado now. You know that. I thought. What do they teach you in school, Jaden? What do they teach you in school if not important historical facts? It's important. Yeah, yeah. It would be Sharknado. You don't want a Sharknado. What you want is a lava tarantula. What's the other one that they did? That's the important one. That's the one you really don't want to deal with. And you got to deal with a Gutenberg. Gutenberg. You got to deal with all the cast of Police Academy just hanging out. Ugh. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll go with that. I still have fond memories of the Spider-Man 2 video game for the GameCube. That was one of my favorite story. That was one of my favorite games as a kid. I loved that game so much. So I appreciate uh, the one. I will say this. I think one thing the Spider-Man sequels do better is that they don't have those terrible missions where you don't play as Spider-Man. Oh my god, that those sucked. I was like, yeah, the one thing I really want to do is have a forced stealth section in like 2022. That's what I want to do, Sony. Uh, yeah. I mean, those games are fun. I do get burned out. You know, a thing I get burned out with Spider-Man games is I've played a lot of them. I've played a lot of them. And one thing that they do that I'm not the hugest fan of is at some point they always have like the city of New York turn into a like something always goes wrong so that there aren't any civilians there anymore. It's just people always attacking Spider-Man. And I'm always bummed when they do that because it's like that's not really how Spider-Man stories work usually. They don't call him the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for nothing. Like I know it's harder to program a couple of sets of AI, but you know, do it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, this is turning out okay, but this arm. What's the arms that are giving me troubles lately? Boop. Boop. Yeah, that's good. I don't. I mean, I played those games. I don't really have like that dedicated of a memory to them. Truth be told, my most prominent memory of the first game is being very annoyed by the non Spider-Man missions. And having very conflicted feelings about making Mary Jane a reporter instead of an actress. Still have kind of conflicted feelings about that, honestly. Uh, no, I get that, Jaden. I get that. But let me tell you, let me give you my opinion. You can just show that with Peter interacting with people. We don't have to be put in. We don't have to be put in like boring Gameplay where listen, Jay, listen. When I play a Spider-Man game, I want to play as Spider-Man. I don't want to play as the people. I don't want to play as the people around him. I want to play as Spider-Man. I don't want to do boring forced stealth sections. And I believe, Jaden, you can incorporate other people into this. Most stories, Jaden, have side characters into them that have developed have some pretty good deep development, but we still maintain a good focus on the protagonist. Jaden, we did not need to spend a half hour with Mary Jane seeking through a damn museum. I know I know that they got rid of those sections pretty quickly after everybody complained about them. But Harry, yeah, it's somehow like having a protagonist centered story somehow doesn't mean you get to know. I don't know. That's ridiculous. Oh, fucking worst. Nope, sorry, I'm not supposed to curse. Flipping worst. Worst scene. Worst scene in here in superhero writing ever. That scene. No, no. There's much worse scenes, but it's a pretty bad scene. Yeah, but it's like you can include Peter's life without having to worry about it. And honestly, the game, I think, I'm going to be honest. I think the game does a pretty decent job including Peter's life without having to resort to those awful, awful side missions. Ugh. I've never been more angry at a game mechanic in my life than that, where it's like inexplicably, it's like we're being punished for having fun with a Spider-Man game. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. It's what made me quit playing it. It's having to do one too many of those missions. I was just like, nope, not doing this anymore. Like at least make them like not like can't. Oh fuck. There we go. Like I get like making it like a I don't know. Just don't make me lose at those. Like when you're playing a game, it's unfair to like throw new skills out at somebody and expect them to be good at it immediately. Like don't make me fail at those. Like if we have to, just make them like a walking simulator where we have a brief moment with somebody else's life and then we can get back to the fun. Like don't make me like don't make because like the more I fail at those, the more I get angry at those. Yeah, yeah. Well, I get including Miles because you're setting up Miles for the next game and stuff like that. I get that. And I get MJ, but also like I have problems with how they did MJ in that game. I'm going to be honest. I don't I'm not a fan of it cuz I think it kind of misses part of the charm of Spider-Man by doing what they did with her in that game. But then again, writers have never known how. Once the marriage happened, were never totally sure how to approach MJ. So it doesn't surprise me that they're still messing it up. Yeah, like okay. So my basic problem is that turning her from an actress to a reporter kind of implies that kind of takes away a lot of her characterization. Because I actually always found that quite charming, like that Peter and MJ were like this young couple in New York trying to achieve their dreams. I actually thought that was a really charming part of the story. Like that felt realistic. And I liked that MJ has her own goals outside of Peter. But turning her into a reporter means that she's just the person who Peter reports on, you know? She's just the person who reports on Spider-Man now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's my problem. It's like there's something very charming about the idea of Peter and MJ being this like young couple living in New York, trying to make their like lives go. Because you don't see that often, that part of people's lives. Like you see them dating, you see them in high school, and then you see them later when they have kids. But you don't see them as you don't see like a young married couple just trying to like live their lives together and separately. And I like that. I like that. And it's like the problem is like so it's like because then it incorporates like that means Mary Jane has her own wants outside of Peter, which I think makes her quite an interesting character. And what bugs me about the whole let's just make her a reporter thing is that then that doesn't happen anymore. Then that doesn't happen anymore. It's like implying like she doesn't do her own stuff anymore. Like she's just part of Peter's world. I kind of like that there is a superhero love interest who's kind of doing their own thing. I don't know. That's charming to me. Hey Nymph, how's it going? Good to see you. How are your friends? I'm just complaining that I think the uh, the Spider-Man games kind of do MJ wrong, kind of screw up MJ as a character, and that was me complaining about it. What dinner are you having? And how are your friends? Were they good? What were you guys talking about? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I don't have a serious opinion on that. Uh, Happy to finally be doing art again. Was out of it for a day or two. So, did you ever play the Spider-Man games, Nymph? Well, Lois Lane is great, but Lois Lane is great, but she's not like Lois Lane is her own. I resent that all like superhero characters have to be. Anyways, so I my main complaint I dislike what they did with MJ as they turned her into a reporter, and I was conflicted on this initially, but I kind of think so in Spider-Man, in the world of Spider-Man, MJ, Mary Jane is an actress. Like that's her dream is to become an actress. And I always thought that was pretty charming. Like that was kind of a charming thing in Spider-Man comics. That like Peter and MJ, once they get married, are this young couple like living in a kind of crappy apartment in New York, both trying to achieve their dreams. And it's like you don't get to see that a lot. And I think what's so nice about MJ as a character is she's one of the few superhero love interests that kind of has a life outside of Peter. Like so many superhero love interests are reporters, and the reason they're reporters is because they can just report on the superhero and be and like just be part of it. And I always think that's a real bummer. I don't know. I just think that's a real bummer that like she has actually her own character interest in characters outside of Peter, and I don't know. I was always bummed by that. Anyways, that's my hot take of the day. I, art. There we go. Hey, someone. How's it going, Tato? So what are we all up to today? You're someone. Yes, you're someone. I had an idea. So, what is Project Zomboid about? Also, I had an idea for an art challenge today. If people want to do it at some point, I think it would be fun. We don't have to do it today, though, if people are busy. I've never played Animal Crossing before. Tell me, from the videos I've seen, it involves the Doom Marine coming in and uh, taking cute animal people and teaching them how to kill demons. This. I understand this is what happens in this game, right? Oh no! Do you guys know what I'm referring to? Have you guys seen these videos? Oh no! Well, I'm sure. I'm sure they would let you reschedule it. That's fine. Uh, Drink some tea with lemon in it, Tato. That'll probably be the best way to do it. Like that helps your voice. Has nobody seen these videos that Has nobody seen this whole thing I'm referring to? That Isabella, and the Doom Marine are best friends. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they. Yeah, no, there's no way. If the teacher is like a jerk. Nice, congratulations. You're making it, Tato. You're making it. Am I following you? I am not. Okay, I'm following you now. Yeah, I like Kristen Wiig. Not Kristen Dunst. So Nymph, what are you currently working on? Have you seen? Okay, so dragon outfits. How are they going? I see Birdie commented in the Discord about your dragon outfits. I don't know this game. So what is this game? Tell me about this game. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Listen, the Sam Raimi movies came out when I was a kid, Jaden. So that means they're perfect and there's nothing wrong with them. Uh, you guys should know 2000s era's movies, best movies ever made. There's nothing wrong with them. They're all great, and every other and movies have only gotten worse since then. That's just the truth of the matter. Sure. I had an idea for an art thing we could do. Maybe not today. Maybe save it for a weekend thing. But I think it would be a fun idea. What is today? It's Wednesday. Um, the Risma song. Is this a young thing? I got a variant. Yeah. Yep, that's the truth. No, I was older by then. Movies got bad when I got older. Uh, that's just the truth. Once I got older, movies were bad. But movies are good. Were good when I was a kid and young. Cool. Oh, how long? How long have you been playing the game? Got this. I hate when like I hate when like people give me YouTube advice and it's like buy more expensive equipment. Like that's the end of their advice is just like, yeah, you should probably like buy super expensive equipment. And do gotta. You should probably just. Why don't you just buy like expensive equipment? And yeah, do that. And they're like, well, thanks, buddy. Thanks. Also, you should spend like money on hiring like a thumbnail person. I don't know. Very annoying. Very annoying. I hate those types of people. One, it's not true. It's not true. A lot of people, at least where I am spending the right amount of money on YouTube, which is I am doing it with equipment I already have. I don't know. Spider-Man, the Spider-Man 2, the original Spider-Man 2. Once YouTube starts becoming like a money making thing, then I'll spend a little extra on equipment. But I'm like here's the thing: YouTube needs to start being profitable for me to start putting money into it, and it is currently not profitable. I'm it will one day hopefully, but it's currently not. Toby's. That's why I said the original Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock. I love Sam Raimi as a director. What's going on here? Oh, okay. That's, yeah. Directed the man who directed the Evil Dead movies, will forever have my love. Okay, who is here who here has seen the Evil Dead movies, the original ones with Bruce Campbell? Um, Jaden? No, they're probably not appropriate. Right, I forget young people are here. Nymph, have you ever heard of the Evil Dead movies? Don't watch the first one. The first one's quite bad, but the sequels are great. No Way Home. Yeah. Oh, of course nobody has. There was a TV show out a few years ago that was pretty good. Um, yeah. Some modern historians like to think that the like '80s horror got truly started off with the first one. Which is because it's about a group of young people that go into a cabin and get killed off one by one by an evil force. But then it turns and gets weird, which is fun. It gets weird and strange, and it turns into a weird horror comedy sort of thing. Uh, and it culminates with him, with the main character Ash, played by Bruce Campbell, going into the past and fighting fighting evil zombies with a chainsaw hand. It's it's pretty fun. Jaden, yeah, he's really good. I like Tom Holland a lot. He's a really great Spider-Man. So, Nymph Tato, question for the YouTube contingent. What would you say is your favorite movie? That's awesome. Wreck It Ralph. Wreck It one or two. That's awesome. You want to share it? No, you don't have to. But that's very cool. There isn't even a two, right? Like Wreck It Ralph 2 doesn't exist. I didn't realize. I didn't realize. I didn't realize there was a Wreck It Ralph 7. I never saw Wreck It Ralph 2. I did it really engarner this much rage. Uh, no, my favorite Spider-Man. That is really awesome, Tato. That's really cool. Yeah. Actually, no. My favorite Spider-Man is. Uh, wait. Sorry. My favorite Spider-Man is. I clearly know this guy's name right off the top of my head. Nicholas Hammond. That's my favorite Spider-Man. He's the best Spider-Man. I don't think there's any other Spider-Man better than Nicholas Hammond. Another movie I never saw. But I no, everybody likes the Emoji Movie, right? Right? Everybody likes that cast. No, but Nick Hammond, the greatest Spider-Man ever. Toby, Toby, Andrew, Tom. None of them are as good as Nick Hammond, the number one best Spider-Man ever. Better than all the other Spider-Men. Super cool. Nobody even knows what I'm referencing. So, if you're curious, in the 70s, there was a Spider Man TV show. What? Shocker. Nobody's. Surely you would have heard about this. Yeah, no, there was a Spider Man TV show in the 70s starring a guy named Nick Hammond. Was it good? No, no, it wasn't. I've tried watching it a few times. It's very, very boring. It's kind of hard to sit through. Nick Hammond, because one, they can't really afford to do any of the actual stuff. Like they can't afford to do any of the actual like Spider-Man stuff, so it's just a guy wearing an ill-fitting costume. And he doesn't go up against any of his villains. He just goes up against generic crime guys most of the time. But he was the best. It was the best version of that character. Everybody loved him. So Wreck It Ralph no good. But Nymph, they had that one scene where like all the Disney princesses were in pajamas, and I see that scene referenced a lot. So are you saying that wasn't good? I don't know, Nymph. You'll have a lot of middle age. You'll have a lot of middle aged people being very mad at that. Sure, that'd be fun. Uh, who's the now canceled YouTuber that's in that movie? Oh, Miranda Sings. You don't like her cameo in that? I know three things about. I know three things about that movie. I know she's in it. She has a cameo in that. I know the princess in the pajama scene, and I know that an actual comedian that I like, who I think is cool, Jason Mantzoukas, pops up in it and references a podcast I listen to a lot. That he's a frequent guest on. So I like one of those things the most. Yeah. Do you know who Jason Mantzoukas is? Nymph? Jaden? Tato? You might. You might. You just don't realize who this is the same person. Have you guys seen? He's been in a ton of stuff that I think is cool. But have you guys seen the Percy Jackson TV show, the new one? Opus, Opus, Broken Teacup Opus. How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, Levi. Good to see you. Good to see you. How's everybody doing? Good to see all of you. That's good. Did you fail anybody for fun? I don't know this. What is this? What is this game? What is this game you're referencing? I do not know this game. Arctic Phone, the online telephone game. Play the popular game for free now. Oh, that's good. So you're not failing anybody for fun. Giving the overachieving teacher's pet like a B plus. Really watching them. Ah, Makes sense. Apparently, I have played it before because it remembered me. Either that or cookies are very doing a lot more intense stuff. You know, just to mess with them. It's an 89. One more point and it could have been an A, but I guess they'll just have to accept a B plus. That's okay. I'm sure Harvard won't mind. Harvard. Harvard won't mind at all. Harvard knows. No extra credit on this test at all. Don't worry, Harvard has enough space to put in a rich kid whose dad gave them a lot of money. And the extra credit requires them to leave the house. Okay, Jaden. Good talking. Who's Chips? Chip 67? I don't know. Is this a living potato chip? Is this a living potato? Is this a potato chip that somehow gained sentience through evil science, I assume? From the CIA and now streams on YouTube? So what are we working on? So, Layla, how are things going? What are we working on today? An evil sentient potato chip. That's not fair. I don't know if he's evil. A neutral. A neutral. Well, there's about 67 of them, I assume, in the bag. And or they came to life in 67. Or, I don't know. Or they're the 67th chip in a line of chips. Like their father was chip 66. Their father was chip 60. Chip the 66, chip the 64. You know, it's a King Louis situation. Nymph, I assume. Ugh. How many King Louis were there? There were 18 King Louis. So. Is Chip. Tato. Tato, Chip. I Another sentient potato. Potato. I see how it is. So I had this idea for an art challenge thing where we all create D&D characters, and then it's a round. Then we do a round robin, and everybody gets randomly assigned to draw somebody else's D&D character. Yes, Opus. Yeah, that sounds fun though. That sounds fun. Although it's we I you know I'm ooh. Let me think on this. Although I think that's probably an idea for like a weekend stream, not so much a middle of the week stream. Let's Hey Robin, let's I would say let's do that like on like Friday or Saturday, so when people have time to do something like that. How, how's it going, Robin? Good to see you. Oh, you've got a. I mean, that's happened a few times. There was a year like the Roman Empire had like five kings, five emperors or something. The year of the five emperors. Um, let's see. How's it going, Robin? Good to see you. Okay, let's see. Let's create a bad situation for everybody. By the way, there seemed just random complaint about Crusader Kings. I know nobody cares, but I want to complain about it because it's bugging me. There seems to be a glitch in Crusader Kings when you're playing as adventurers that after like three generations, uh, if a grandkid takes over, uh, like it doesn't seem to be able to count for that, and like the adventuring just stops, and they're like just landless now. It's bugging me, and you can't do anything. Anyway, okay. Uh just to complain. Okay. Oh no, that what it sounds like a plague to me. Opus sounds like a plague happened where where all the it sounds like a plague hit the land, and several of the leaders all died in quick succession. Does that sound right to you? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, annoying because like I get it working all the way up to it, and I'm traveling around, and then boom, dead. So I don't know what that is, but it's bugging me to no end. Um, I now know I'm gonna make sure to never let a grandkid take over and always give it to just a kid, but it is bugging me. Uh, yeah, because it does kill off a lot of work. Um, I mean, yeah, plague. Suddenly, plagues things always go wrong during plagues. Um, okay, you guys. Uh, I could give a suggestion for something you could do that caused a massive massive problem. I mean, I did that. It's possible to do that. It's just frustrating that happens because I actually enjoy the travel mechanics. I actually enjoy the travel mechanics of the game. I like just kind of traveling around, accruing like fame and fame and infamy as a band of mercenaries. But I don't know. So we'll see. Okay. So historians have a year that they think. Do you know what the worst year to be alive in human history was? Historians have a year. Have a year that they've selected that they think is the worst ever. Do you guys have a what do you think would make the worst year in human history be? What do you think the worst year in how do you think the worst year in human history would go? What do you think would happen? Throw out your suggestions because I think this one has yeah. What do you think would happen in the worst year in human history? Because what happens is pretty bad. What happens is pretty bad in this year, and there's a single reason for it, but I don't want to blow it. Yes, but why was there war and disease everywhere? What could be the single worst thing that could happen to the human race? Well, okay, I'll tell you. The sun stopped. Nobody could see the sun for a year. Yes. So what happened was they found out later what occurred is that there was a massive volcanic eruption in Iceland, and it blocked out most of the earth with ash for almost an entire year. People were covered in like darkness, pretty much. Yeah. So what happened? So the sun is pretty important for the human race. Heat is needed. A lot of things. Heat, but it's also how we grow our food. So food immediately became a problem. Food immediately became a problem because there was a lot less of it. Also, people started scurrying into their houses, but rats started to follow them because it was very cold, so the rats tried to get into the heat. This meant that people were both very weak from hunger and near rats, so a massive plague happened. Now, a massive plague happened just very coincidentally as of that year would have been a significant year in human history anyways because a very significant event happened. The final attempt, and some would argue um, the last hope of uh, restoring the Roman Empire was occurring. Right, the last real hope that anybody had of restoring the Roman Empire was happening right at this moment. See, okay, a little bit of history. See, the Roman Empire was eventually split into two. There was the western and the eastern half, and the western half fell and became Europe and eventually the Holy Roman Empire. And the eastern half was this book is relevant for that. Ruled out of Greece, Greece and what is now modern day Turkey, survived for a couple hundred extra years. And the emperors in I pull this up because this was a book written by the princess, a princess of the Byzantine Empire, Anna Komnene, about her father. It's maybe one of the most detailed looks we have at like the Byzantine from some. Anyways, yeah. So so right in the middle of this massive attempt to reclaim This was a huge war to reclaim Rome. This happens. Huge plague happens. Thousands of people die of either starvation. Thousands of people die of starvation and pestilence. Yeah, not a good year. Not a good year for people. Maybe the worst year that could ever happen for anybody in the human race. But, wait and see. We're working up something pretty good, I suspect. Okay, so Opus, maybe I'm just suggesting Opus, maybe something like that for your book. Okay, why do you have a report on the Magna Carta? Okay, so the Magna Carta was signed by King John King John of the Plantagenet line. Now, John was the brother of Richard the Lionheart. Now, history has kind of like historians actually have pretty mixed feelings on Richard the Lionhearted, because like people people at the time, he's a big, tall, good-looking guy. He's always he kind of that's kind of the kings people want, but he looks like he's a handsome, good-looking guy and a warrior. So it's like, oh, finally a real king. But if you really look at what he did, he didn't really do a lot, and he barely ever spent time actually in England. Anyways, that's kind of my opinion of King John, Richard the Lionhearted. Anyway, King John was known as John Lacklands. And he's a Plantagenet. Now, the Plantagenets at the moment, his father, King Henry, was it the Fifth? Was a Plantagenet. Now, the Plantagenets at the moment were the richest monarchs in Europe at that time. They were in before Henry took over England. He was both the Duke of Anjou and the Duke of Normandy. Now, the Normans are okay. A little prehistory, a little history of that. The Normans were, hello, Callie. The Normans were Viking raiders who besieged France, and to get them to go away, the king of France, it was Frankie at the time, offered to make Rollo the Walker the Duke of Normandy if he left everybody alone. Anyways, so the Plantagenets were known. Plantagenets were known as kind of this violent. Were kind of known for their anger issues. The Plantagenets are also were kind of known for their anger issues. Known for their anger issues and their kind of interpersonal drama. Eleanor of Aquitaine. Anyways, Eleanor of Aquitaine is okay. So Eleanor of Aquitaine marries Henry Plantagenet, and Eleanor was the Duchess of Aquitaine, which is another huge region in France, and the former queen of France. So this is to say, once we get to the Plantagenets and Henry, Richard, and John, they're maybe the richest, most powerful people in Europe at the time. And this is also a problem because you might notice Normandy, Anjou, and Aquitaine are all part of France. So there's this weird deal that the Plantagenets work out with the King of France, that they would rule these areas as subjects of the King of France, and also be the kings of England at the same time. So this is a whole problem. This is a whole problem, and this is going to, if you can't tell, this is going to create like a couple hundred years of war. Anyways, this is going to create years of warfare and bloodshed. so it eventually gets to the point where so and it doesn't help that the Plantagenets are also these kind of violent idiots who make problems for themselves. And so Henry's kids constantly rebel against Henry. Um, and there's debate how much Eleanor of Aquitaine was somewhat responsible for helping engineer these rebellions. There is, there's some questions about that. Anyways, so by the time this is all settled, Richard is the King of England. Yeah. Ooh, Opus! You may have figured out why the French why the French and the English have a problem with each other. You're gonna see it gets really bad in a minute. You're gonna see it gets really bad in a minute. What they do. Anyways, so Richard becomes king, but Richard is also likes exploring, wants to be a crusader, and almost immediately decrees that he plans to go to Jerusalem on crusades. So John never really rebelled, so he leaves John in as his regent. And the thing is, like, John is always known for, it was called John Laxland. Was his really diminutive nickname that he would get, and the reason why is because, like, every one of his brothers got land except for him, and they would all, like, kind of talk down to him as a person and, like, consider him kind of stupid. John has a bit of a complex. Anyway, John has a bit of a complex, if you haven't been picked up. And it gets really bad after King Richard dies. He dies. It's for war-related reasons. Not in Jerusalem. He actually does weirdly well in Jerusalem. Oh boy. He does weird. He actually doesn't do too bad in Jerusalem. He never manages to take Jerusalem from Salah ad-Din, who is one of the true great warriors of the time. But he manages to take a couple of cities and secure other things. Anyways, but after he dies, John takes over, and immediately John almost loses all of the land in France, except for a couple of islands off the French coast. Yeah. Well, it's not so much that John is a bad king, because I've heard some people argue that John was one of the few kings to actually balance the budget. It's just he kind of makes he keeps he's a bad king, but it's because he's kind of, the problem with John is he's really wishy-washy. He's like really wishy-washy essentially, and he kind of just does what people, he doesn't really know how to stand up for himself. Anyways, so John eventually, so for the rest of John's career, he keeps trying to retake the French lands. That's what he wants to do, is retake the French lands. And what's funny a little bit about that is that part of it is the French nobles. He gives a lot of former land that he used to rule to his former French noblemen, and they actually don't want him to retake it because they have more land now than they did when he still ruled it. Yeah. Although John does get the budget balanced, which is important. So basically, he keeps trying to, like, raise these taxes. Yeah, there's a few other things that happen, but he keeps trying to raise taxes for the land, for wars, partly to retake it. There's a whole another conflict, and the lords kind of get sick of him constantly trying to do this, so they make him sign the Magna Carta, and that's a very short reason why. It's more complicated. There's a bunch of other reasons, but basically the Magna Carta states that he's no longer above the kings are no longer above the law, which is a big deal in, like, the medieval world for that to be stated, because You got to remember, at this time, it's believed that kings are appointed by God. Appointed by God. There's this whole idea of the divine right of kings, and kings are appointed by God to rule in his stead. So, like, ostensibly, whatever a king says is what God is saying, and they're kind of going like, "No, that's not a thing anymore." This is going to be a big conversation point in medieval society for a couple hundred years. This idea, yeah, this is going to be a big this is going to be a big conversation point in medieval society for a long time. This our kings appointed by God. Notably, King James believes this quite fervently about the divine right of kings. And maybe that's what leads to his son getting murdered. Anyway, so uh, that's everything I know about the. There's a whole conflict that happens, but basically he keeps trying to raise taxes and for to retake the lands. And eventually, people just get so sick of it. They make him sign this whole thing, and that he has to basically listen to Parliament for this. And it's considered like one of the. And he by the way fights against the Magna Carta like wild, and this I believe this actually devolves into a civil war eventually, if I remember my history correctly. Uh, but almost everything devolved in the Civil War, and this is why we shouldn't have monarchies because things like who gets to things because civil wars would break out every few like true direct rule monarchies because things like civil wars would happen every 5 years. Um, you guys want to hear about Eleanor of Aquitaine? She's pretty fun. That's John's mom. Because her whole story is pretty wild. Yeah. Did you know Eleanor of Aquitaine? Callie, are you several thousand years old? You can tell us. Is that your mom? Uh, anyways, that's as much as I know about the Magna Carta. I know there's this whole I know there was this whole conflict that precipitated it. I forget what the name of it is, but yeah. So basically, the lore. And by the way, like the Magna Carta is a thing you'll see in medieval society a lot, where it's like the question is who really rules the lands? Is it the lords or is it the king? Um, or the monarch? And yeah. Well, kings get weird. Charles the First definitely proved that. I know a lot about the English monarchy. Charles the First definitely proved that kings can get pretty weird. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's turning out pretty decent. Yeah, every once in a while I draw okay. So, uh, yeah. What's your favorite period of history, Opus? Uh, so Eleanor of Aquitaine, if people are curious, nobody said no, so Eleanor of Aquitaine, if you no, don't. Eleanor of Aquitaine. I am curious, Nymph, why you asked about the Magna Carta. I am curious why. Uh, yes, Tato. Yes, it is. Actually, I think it's red and green. I think it's red and green. Yeah. So Eleanor of Aquitaine is interesting because she was both the Queen of France and England at one point in her life. Um, and she was arguably like the one of the more powerful women in Europe for a while. Although she did spend many years imprisoned, so um, by her husband. Man, that I mean, I've seen. Let's see. Yes, I've seen it before. Stream talk, stream talk. Hmm. So this is the dress. What do you guys think? You know, it's funny. Part of the problem is it's kind of it's quite a low quality picture. But looking at it right now, you could almost swear. Okay, here's a controversial one. I could swear right now at this moment. It looks blue and gold to me, right? It kind of looks blue and gold, actually. Yeah. Yes. Indeed. Indeed. What if this was a conspiracy, huh? What if this was a conspiracy to make, I don't know, good advertising, right? Man, those people at, I think it was a Marshall's dress, if I remember correctly. Those people at Marshall's must have freaked out when that happened. Like, this is like the best advertising we've ever had. I believe they do make it now in gold, both in gold and black, and blue and black and white and gold. Romans originals. Yeah. Okay. So, how's your voice doing, Tato? Is it still sore? Okay, so Eleanor of Aquitaine was a was her she was the Duchess of Aquitaine. Now Aquitaine is a region in France, in southern. It's a region in southern France. This is important because they're southern French, and they're actually Occitan or Occitan. I'm not totally sure how you say it. Which in many, and they don't even they don't speak French. They speak Occitan, which is a language closer to like Spanish or Basque. Like it's closer to like which is somewhat closer to Spanish. So it's a little bit of a different culture. And at one point, I believe they were their own kingdom. But at the moment now, they're very firm. They're now very firmly entrenched in France. Um, and she is the sole daughter of the Duke of Aquitaine, and she becomes the and thus she is the only one. Thus, when he dies, she's the only one who inherits, and she's left in the care of the King of France, and the King of France already has the perfect pick for her husband, his son. Now, Now, this is one of these instances where the current guy who's going to be the king of France was not really meant to be the king. He had initially been training to be a priest and a monk, and it was kind of surprised when he ended up as king of France. And he's very religious, and he's very religious, and he has a lot of like ideas about things. Um, but the two get married, and a thing like they talk about is that she is Eleanor is the southern the people of Aquitaine are a lot more like lively, and northern France are very like very demure, very serious people. Um, and thus the French and they don't really necessarily get along all that well initially. They have two kids, but Fran rules about French secession is very specific. Only boys can inherit, which I know is bad, and it is bad. But they have two. She has two daughters with him, and two daughters only. Then her and her husband decide to go on crusade, and she runs into her uncle. And there's some really gross rumors that he seemingly spread. And pretty much they're on the path to divorce. Now, the thing about divorce in the time is theoretically she can get divorced because they don't have a son yet. And see, once she has a son, Aquitaine passes to him. Aquitaine would pass to him, and she would lose out on her inheritance. But she only has daughters at the moment. Again, very sexist society, but sexist society only has daughters at the moment. So if she gets divorced, she can if she gets divorced, she can keep her inheritance for herself, and she can get free of her husband. Her husband, I should emphasize, is kind of an incredibly religious, gomless. Like he's a busybody. He's a busybody, and I imagine that was quite stifling for her. So yeah, no, she gets divorced. This happens. It's rare. It happens. They get divorced. The marriage is annulled. They're divorced. Partly because she pressures him about the fact that she's not having any sons, and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting older now. I don't know if I can have children anymore. You're gonna have to divorce me." So he does, and then 3 weeks later, she marries the King of England. She marries the King of England almost 2 weeks later. And they proceed to have 6 children, including 5 sons. Now, Eleanor is considered a yeah. And some people believe that there's some shenanigans going on because it feels very coincidental. Because, one thing, like when she was heading back to Aquitaine, a thing she literally has to worry about, like this is the society of the time, she would literally have to worry about is that there would be people, she has to walk back with armored guards because she theoretically could get kidnapped, married against her will, and her kidnappers could claim her land. She was married to the King of France. The King of France is kind of a fuddy duddy. They have two daughters, but France is very sexist, and it has to be only sons can inherit. Only sons can inherit. So and she's getting a little bit older, so she talks him into divorcing her. This coincidentally means that she gets to keep her land because her daughters cannot inherit it. Again, yeah. And then pretty much 2 weeks after the divorce, she turns right around and marries the King of England, and has like 6 sons with him in like 4 or 5 years. Uh, King Henry is King Henry. I forget which Henry he is. I think third is the most powerful. Currently, the most powerful man in Europe. Currently, the richest, most powerful man in Europe, and he rules much of France, which is a problem for. Which rules both France and England. Yeah, yeah. King Henry was, I think he was 19. She was like 26 and he was 19. Age gap, I know, but when they got married, but as opposed to the king of, and he's considered, the way he's described, he was considered quite good looking. He was like this bold, impetuous, go getter, whereas like the King of France is like this kind of boring monk who is constantly fretting about like, is this religiously good? So it's like you can see why she immediately she's more interested in Henry. Henry proves to be an issue though, and he will eventually imprison her for like almost a decade. It's complicated. Their marriage goes south, but she does get to keep Aquitaine. And she essentially is the king. She technically, like, when her son Richard Lionhearted goes to war, John is the regent, but she's the one who's actually in charge of England for a while. Um. Anyway, there's a lot. She and some people theorize that she was the one who. Yeah, the problem with that, Tato, is if she doesn't get married when she dies, it goes to the king. If she doesn't get, it'll go to her. It would go to her ex husband anyways. Because if the ruler if they die without a proper heir in place, the king just gets it back. So she has to. Yeah, but she does. The whole point is she doesn't want Aquitaine to be ruled. Her whole point is she doesn't want Aquitaine to be ruled by her ex husband, or his family, whoever that happens to be. She wants it to go to one of her children who will like Aquitaine. She wants it to go to one of her children who will care about what Aquitaine has to say about Aquitaine. Because you got to remember, part of all of this is she kind of the people of Aquitaine kind of consider the French to be almost kind of colonialists. Like they don't consider themselves French. They consider themselves Aquitaine. They consider themselves a different culture, and they don't want to be ruled over directly by the French. They want one of their own to rule them. So that's why she needs to ensure that it's somebody of her own picking. The Octans are probably closer in like culture to, like, say, the Basque people. of Spain. If you don't know who the Basque are kind of are mountainous people who consider themselves have been ruled over by the Spanish, but don't really consider themselves part of Spain, and they've been trying to get uh, gain independence for years, for centuries, pretty much from Spanish rule. It's complicated. History is very complicated. Anyways, she does end up being kind of essentially. But once her husband dies, she is essentially in charge of England for many years. She is essentially the one in charge of England for many years, and then once like John takes over, she retires to Aquitaine and gets to live essentially a pretty peaceful life in Aquitaine as the Duchess of as a duchess. Um, there is these instances where she has to travel pretty much crisscross around Europe to get one of her granddaughters married to the King of Spain, but that's a whole thing. At the age of like 73, she has to essentially go back to England, pick up one of her granddaughters, and then drive her down to Spain so that she can get married to the. It's not Spain at the moment. It's like I think it was Castile, if I remember correctly, and get her married. But anyway, she's a pretty cool lady. Her court in Aquitaine is very famous. It's considered they call it of love, the court of love or the court of chivalry, and she would hire. And there's like all these legends that she is the one who created like all these ideas of romantic, like cauterized all these ideas of romantic love in her court. That's probably not true. The court of like chivalry. English probably got that idea actually from the Muslims during the Crusades, but it is true that she had like this. It was one of those huge centers of learning that the medieval world had, where like she would bring in poets and scientists and artists, from all over the world and give them patronage. You have to remember, a lot of this is somewhat surreal to think about, but a lot of these moves that these people do are all they think about is what's going to happen after they die. Like half of the things they're worried about is their death, which is surreal, I know, but that's like the truth of it. Is like they're all like almost tons of wars, like tons of like legal things are all about like succession, figuring out the succession, who will succeed who, and they never figure it out until like at least in England until like the 1800s, really. Okay, we're getting there. You guys want to see a really cool wolf? If I finish this drawing, I'll show it. You guys want to see a cool wolf? Um, Opus, Tato, Nymph. If Nymph is still here, you guys want to see this wolf? Look at this wolf. Look at this wolf. Look how cool it is. Look at its like huge, like long legs. And you could argue that John screws up so much that he lets the lets the uh, let, does eventually lose Aquitaine. But Eleanor and Henry are still buried there. Eleanor is buried. Uh, Eleanor is buried next to Henry, a little above him. Okay, I'll be back in a second. is right. Ooh, boy. Oh, dang. Uh, well, uh, I think it's probably time to call it here. It's been fun. We'll work on this more tomorrow. Hopefully.